joins us for the next two segments, founder of Judicial Watch and Freedom Watch. And I can't think of anybody who's broken more secret documents, leaks, than Larry Klayman. He also is a columnist and investigative journalist for WorldNet Daily. And he is demonized by the Clintonistas big time. Larry Klayman joins us. We'll give you his website coming up here in a moment as well. There's so much to talk about. When I wanted to get Larry on a few days ago, it was going to be about his investigation of Lois Lerner and what's really happening with the IRS persecution. But now we've got Obama saying he'll sign an order legalizing the illegals and stopping any deportations. They've pretty much already done that. And then he'll put us under UN control with carbon taxes without Congress. This is official dictator type stuff. So I want to cover the waterfront with him. freedomwatch.org is the best website. freedomwatchusa.org. So again, he joins us right now. Larry Klayman, thank you for coming on.
Thank you, Alex. Nice to hear from you. Again,
that's freedomwatchusa.org. Even I feel like I'm in the twilight zone, and I'm somebody who's been accused of, going too far so many times. Now people say, wow, it's all true and worse. Larry, what's the next shoe to drop? I mean, I want to get into all the stuff that's happening, but it just seems like the bottom's dropped out. We've reached that point, like with Hitler or Stalin, where they've gotten away with everything, so why not go to the moon? I mean, why not go 1 trillion miles? If they've already taken us this far, how far will they go?
Well, it's quite clear that they, meaning Obama and his comrades, literally speaking, will do whatever they can. They have a certain period of time left in office until we get Miss Hillary, probably in the next 8 years after that, which will finish the country off. She's elected. But they're going to take it to the max. And, everybody tries to make excuses for Obama, particularly the Republicans. They're trying to say, oh, he's incompetent, he's not well-informed, he doesn't know what he's doing. That's ridiculous. And the only reason they say that is that they're afraid of being accused of being racist. Because they actually criticize the guy for his ideology all of a sudden from the left. You're racist. So they have to couch it. We have to call it as it is, Alex, and you've done that. Well, I admire you. Is that, somebody's got to speak out, and the fact that you're speaking from your heart and what you believe to be true doesn't mean that just because you're criticizing an African-American president that you're a racist. So that's where it comes from initially. This guy would have been long gone if he was not African-American. He would not be in office by now. Even as bad as he is, and as bad as the electorate is that put him in there, because he's committed one scandal after another. He's lied to the American people. He's trashed the Constitution with executive orders and everything else. And now the world is imploding over his foreign policy, which is not based on a lack of knowledge, but I believe it's calculated to further a Muslim caliphate. He feels kinship with these people. And that helps explain why, we did an interview about Extortion 17 in Afghanistan, why our best and brightest, Navy SEAL Team 6, can't fire on, Muslim insurgents before they're fired upon first. I mean, my God, look at the Israelis. If there was a Hamas operative in an apartment building, they blew the whole thing up. And who elected Hamas? It was the people of Gaza. You got to pay the price for putting them in power. But we're not willing to do any of that stuff. And the world's falling apart from Russia and the Ukraine.
Well, regardless of why he's doing it, he is turning loose the most radical, vicious, caliphate, Wahhabist nutballs all over the world. With Benghazi, helped give them weapons, helped use them against Syria. And it is so diabolical to see them going for broke. And then they get away with persecuting everyone 1,000 times what Nixon did with the IRS. I know you've been focusing in on that as well.
Yeah, before I get to that, I'll make one point here, which is important, is that we should not just be critical of Obama and his leftist hacks, but also the Republican Party and the Republican leadership, because all of a sudden the Republicans learned about ISIS. There are key Republicans, like Mike Rogers, that is chairman of the Intelligence Committee, like John McCain, who's the powerful U.S. senator, quote unquote, like Lindsey Graham, another senator, like Representative Peter King. Where were they? Why weren't they telling us about ISIS? And so the whole government has broken down, and on top of it sits an NSA and CIA that spies on us with their heart's content. And the IRS is part of this. that's the segue, Alex, is that the intimidation of conservative groups, auditing of them, harassment of them, is not new, but it's part of an entire process that the government is using to keep dissent down, to keep people from complaining, to keep them from taking action against the government, legal action, scare them to the point you can't even use your telephone anymore. And, of course, the IRS is an agency that characteristically has been used not just in this country, but ministries of finance in all countries to destroy political adversaries, particularly Russia, China, and other places. So we live in a Orwellian state, as the judge said in our NSA case when we got an injunction last December. There's a state of tyranny that we live in, and frankly, we're not far away from violent revolution, which I'm doing my best to try to prevent. God forbid that happens, but I do believe that will happen.
Well, clearly they want to bring in tens of millions of illegals to be wedded to the Democratic Party for free goodies and then make it a racial issue if you don't want totally open borders, and to have Obama and Jerry Brown saying it's our responsibility to pay for the children of the world when only 17% of those coming in are children. And then meanwhile, in Texas, they're reporting on an imminent terror threat. Judicial Watch that you founded, Fed's bulletin describes threat of imminent terrorist attack on southern border. Well, yeah, they report thousands of others than Mexicans, as they call it, pouring in from the Middle East with all sorts of ISIS memorabilia and signets. ISIS is showing up at the White House. They're showing up in Ferguson. I've been sent threats by these groups. I mean, this is like rock star with the left. A lot of leftists who aren't even Islamicists are like really like what's going on. And I used to think when I would hear you and others, because I respect you a lot, but say, you know, Obama's secretly this and that and he's planning this, I was like, oh, come on. But when we learned his cousin in Kenya is sending money up to the Muslim Brotherhood to overthrow the Egyptian government, and then they're blowing up all these churches and crucifying Christians, and our media is defending it, CNN's defending it. And then you catch Obama trying to overthrow Assad to put Al-Qaeda in, and you see these, you start going, man, well, I mean, if it looks like a duck, if it quacks like a duck, I mean, is the Islamic radical movement a fifth column for the liberals?
Alex, unless we do something, we're ducked, right?
Yes.
Right. So, look, yesterday, I mean, to give you an example, we filed a lawsuit. I filed it in my own name with John Doe plaintiffs, okay, to protect them out of security and allow people to come. I brought a lawsuit against President Obama, against Secretary of State John Kerry, former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, and the UN Secretary General something Moon, whatever his name is. And what they've been doing, and this is Israel, and it tells you the way this whole thing's operating, is that we have given hundreds of millions of dollars to Hamas out of slush funds at the State Department for so-called humanitarian purposes. And just a few days ago, when the Israelis took out the chief financial officer of Hamas and bombed his car, they found a boatload of American dollars in that car. Obama knows what he's doing, and he's giving this money to Hamas to further their terrorist activities, and along with terrorists.
Sure, I mean, that's on record.
Right, and that's important now. Why is that important as well? Because, you know, Netanyahu basically just sold out in Israel. The Israelis are really mad at him. So tough guy, and he rolled again.
Well, Larry, stay there. We're going to come back and have you break this down in another segment with Larry Klayman, and we're going to talk about where he sees the future of this country going, because I don't have words to describe how dire our straits are right now. And regardless of what you think about Israel, why does Hamas fire the rockets? Why do they attack? Why? What is the point of that? I had tried everything. I'd cut back the amount of food I was eating. I was lifting weights and jogging, but nothing was working. My body was literally starving for minerals and trace elements as well as key vitamins. And as soon as I had that, I immediately could eat half of what I was eating previously and be satisfied. Now, there are hundreds of great products at InfoWarsTeam.com, but I want to point out the three that have helped me lose 37 pounds in just 2 months. Products like Beyond Tangy Tangerine, Pollen Burst, and Rebound. When I started taking the Tangy Tangerine and other products every day, I lost more than 37 pounds in just 2 months. Now that's results. I want to challenge my listeners to go to InfoWarsTeam.com and to order just 3 of their products, and you will see the changes in the way you look, feel, and in your appetite almost immediately. Start your journey to health and wellness today. InfoWarsTeam.com. A criminal political establishment that really has a score to settle with the free market in America. They want to rule this country. They want Cloward and Piven to wreck it so they can run it and pose as the saviors. Larry, you were getting into hundreds of millions of dollars being sent to Hamas, and then Hamas launching attacks on Israel, and then Israel looks like the bully, and there was superior weapons bombing, the combatants. But just looking at it coldly, not emotionally, what is the point of Hamas attacking Israel knowing they're going to lose, A, and B, it is a leftist cause celeb at the UN, everywhere else. I have leftists call me all the time, and they say, are you upset about dead Palestinian kids? I go, yeah, I am. I don't like seeing dead children. This is terrible. Do you care about 300,000 dead Syrians, mainly Christians, killed by al-Qaeda, being backed by Obama and John Kerry? And they just, shut up. You work for Israel. I mean, who's going to speak up for the Christians? It's just all the left will talk about is Hamas and Israel, as if that's the only thing on the planet. Larry Klayman.
Well, then the left doesn't like Moses or Jesus any more than it likes Moses, okay? The fact is, Israel is the land of Christians and Jews. The fact is, Christians have been killed in Israel by Hamas. The fact is, this president is supporting his brothers, his Muslim brothers, in the Middle East, and he's funneling money. And you're going to see more of it now under the pretext that now we've got to rebuild Gaza. This money is being used against Christian and Jewish interests and American interests, and Obama's furthering it. I filed a lawsuit yesterday. You can find it at freedomwatchusa.org. And we charged Obama and Clinton and Kerry and the UN Secretary General of criminal racketeering in a civil context. So, we're making a point here. And this president is simply not patriotic to this country. He does not care about this country. It's not a question of playing golf. He wants to dismantle this country. He wants us to pay reparations for past discrimination. Granted, that was bad. That needed to be rectified. But he believes that it's time to pay back his people, and his people include African Americans and Muslims. And everybody else can go be damned. And I hate to say it that straight up, Alex, but someone's got to start saying it, I'm a civil rights lawyer in part. Okay, I'm a Jewish Christian. Okay, I understand what discrimination is. It's terrible. Our people were enslaved back with the pyramids. But it doesn't mean you destroy the country because you're going to have to do a payback. And that's what this guy's doing.
Well, look at how al-Qaeda and ISIS is killing the moderate Muslims all over the Middle East. Where is the left on that? That's all I'm saying, is that I'm sad 2,000 Palestinians died in all this, but I wasn't part of it.
You know what? I'm sad too, but the reality is the Palestinians elected Hamas in Gaza, and they elected a terrorist organization. And as a result of that, they have to take responsibility for doing that. And that's their problem. They can get Hamas out of there. They didn't have to vote them in. And they've got it, just like we have to bear responsibility for Obama and what he's done. Maybe we're going to have to make amends to the rest of the world.
Sure. I mean, I get what you're saying, but they'll never talk about hundreds of thousands of Christians being slaughtered by people.
No, of course not. When did you ever hear Obama talk about that? Maybe once or twice in passing in 6 years? The man doesn't consider himself a Christian. The man has an antipathy towards Christians. There's this pastor in Iran that's been rotting in Iran prison now for years. He's just one of many. Read this complaint because we documented in detail that Obama is, in terms of what he feels in his heart and the way he acts, totally Muslim, even though he's only one half Muslim by birth. He was raised in Muslim schools. He is praising terrorist organizations like the Islamic Society of North America repeatedly. He wears a ring that says, "My only God is Allah." You can go.
By the way, that's really true.
It's all been documented.
It's on record. But I always thought that was to manipulate Muslims to follow him or something. I tell you, this is really getting weird. Look, we got to get you back for a full hour if you can do it soon, Larry.
I'd love to, Alex. I mean, we need to tell it like it is. We can't be parsing it anymore. We just can't.
Let me just briefly get this out there, though. You're on the forefront of exposing the IRS from day one. Will anybody get in trouble for that as it's proven they destroyed the evidence? Lois Lerner, the rest of them.
Well, we're working on those. I might say Judicial Watch is my former group. I have run Freedom Watch now. I founded Judicial Watch. And they were the ones that uncovered those emails, and I applaud them for doing that. You know, and one quick point, Alex. Why couldn't the Government Reform and Oversight Committee, with their subpoena power, and they can also file FOIAs, get those documents? Why does Judicial Watch have to do that? It tells you that we don't have a Republican Party that's for real up there. I mean, they're good on getting on Fox News. That's about it. And it's time for the American people to rise up and do it for themselves, because our country, as you pointed out, is hanging by a thread. It's beyond imagination.
Why are these elites doing this when America's wealth and freedom made them so fabulously rich? Why would they want to shut off our power plants, open our borders, bankrupt everything? Just what a bunch of nasty, nasty people.
Well, look, they're in Washington, D.C., there's no recession in Washington. It's, you know, I lived there for 20 years. I still go back there a lot. I spend at least a third of, half of my time there. The fact is there's so much money to divide up. They're cutting up the pie, the Democrats and the Republicans. So why rock the boat? We just get fat and happy and rich, and the American people will be damned. You know, Louis the 16th, après moi le déluge, I speak French. After me, the flood. And that's what's happened. They don't care what's going to happen to this country. To them, it's the power game. And, you know, even the Peter Kings of this world who think it's fine for the NSA to get into all of our underwear, so to speak, you know, our phone records, our internet, and everything else. This is so they can remain in power. And the rest of the country, you know, just go to hell. We're in charge. And, you know, I've had it, and I like to be able to express myself with the American people, because it's time that we do rise up, and I've been advocating peacefully. But there will come a time when, if things don't work, we're back to 1776, and we're not far away from it.
Well, they plan to push us into that position, and that's why they're militarizing the police. William Binney seconded what your lawsuit proved, the former fourth in charge of the NSA, that it's a totalitarian takeover system to suppress legitimate political action. We are in the hands of a radical revolution. We're the restorationists. We're the counter-revolution, and that's how they list us up there, you know, with Bill Ayers and the rest of them. Just really an amazing group of people. I think it's important they know, though, that they're never going to get away with this in the end. In the end, there's going to be Nuremberg-style trials for these people and the collaborators that tried to bring in this criminal system. I mean, does your gut tell you we're going to end up winning in the end, Larry Klayman?
It does. You know, I have a lot of faith, and I am an optimist, or I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing, and you wouldn't either. As Thomas Jefferson said, when the people fear the government, there's tyranny. When the government fears the people, there's liberty. They need to start fearing us, because they're going to have to answer to us at some point.
All right, Larry Klayman, thank you so much for joining us. FreedomWatchUSA.org. We'll talk to you again soon.
God bless them. Bye.
Thank you. We're almost out of time for this Sunday edition. Larry Klayman has defended the Second Amendment, fought carbon taxes, done so much good. And whether you agree with him on the Israel situation or not, I look at it from the outside to see the manipulation. Why are both sides being funded to have conflict? Well, it's good for the crisis managers to stay in control. They want a society based on crisis that they control, problem, reaction, solution, instead of a society based on open, free systems. And they're exacerbating tribal warfare between East and West in Ukraine, the same globalist interest. Same stuff going on in Israel and with Hamas and the Palestinians. Both sides have beefs and grievances. I'm not in their fight. I don't have a dog in those fights. I just don't want to be financing either side of it, like Rand Paul says. I don't want to be involved in this. I want my Constitution, my Bill of Rights, my republic back. And that's why I'm here with the Sunday broadcast. That's why we do the nightly news 5 nights a week at 7 o'clock Central, weeknights. That's why I have a 3-hour radio show weekdays. It's why I work so hard, because I know the only thing that allows evil to triumph is that good men and women do nothing. I know we can take this world back by caring and by being as informed on politics and geopolitical matters that are so incredibly interesting as we are on fantasy football. I've got so many friends who don't even exist this time of year because they're too busy forming their fantasy football leagues. I mean, is that what life was all about? What consciousness was all about? A bunch of bread and circus jokes Now, before we end this hour, please remember we are listener-supported. We don't get money, $400 million of taxpayer dollars like NPR. We don't get stimulus money like MSNBC. You buy the high-quality water filters, pro-gun T-shirts, high-quality supplements, you name it, at InfoWarsStore.com, and that funds the InfoWars.com platform. InfoWarsStore.com or 888-253-3139. Please pray for peace, pray for justice, and the people's eyes be opened, and pray for InfoWars. God bless you all. Great job, crew. Lord willing, see you back tomorrow, 11 a.m. Central. Visit InfoWars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. When you're on the site, you can also tune in 24 hours a day to my daily radio broadcast. There's also a free iPhone app to listen to the syndicated radio show when and where you want.